Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back. It is episode number 10 of the Newcastle United career mode. Starting today's episode off on the back of transfer deadline day and of course the really good start to the season as well. 2 wins and a draw in our first 3 Premier League fixtures were, to be fair, really tough against Man City, Liverpool at home and away against a good Brighton side as well. So yeah, first game of today's episode on the back of the transfer window slamming shut and the 2-0 win against Liverpool. Crystal Palace away from home, Roy Hodgson's side. Obviously Hodgson now is committed to managing Palace for another year next season, the oldest manager in the Premier League, of course. The experience this guy's got, man, seriously. For those that don't actually know much about Roy Hodgson and his managerial career, I mean, you talk about, players that are journeymen. Roy Hodgson as a manager, it's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary what the guy has done in his career and the experience he must have picked up managing in so many different countries and leagues with so many different teams as well. And still in his 70s now, wanting to stay on and manage in a top flight. Well, really, let's be honest here, doesn't need to. The guy's got enough money to retire and live comfortably for the remainder of his years. But fair play, respect the grind for old man Roy. But anyway, taking on Palace here away from home in South London, the Eagles. We fell behind for a rebound goal. So frustrating. I said this before, I really do feel so rebound goals. The amount I concede is so frustrating. I tend to concede a lot more than I score. But thankfully, late on in the second half, I took off Alexander Isak, who's had a good start to the season, but wasn't really doing it for me in this game. So I brought on Callum Wilson, and, well, if you've been a fan of mine for a while, if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know this guy has the nickname Clutch. Callum Clutch Wilson. For the years at Swansea and Borough in FM and Football Manager and FIFA career mode saves I've done, this guy used to always come up big for me in late game situations. He's done it again. He's done it again. Callum Wilson, he's done it again. Yep, late brace for Callum Clutch Wilson off the bench as he single-handedly turns the game on its head, and we win away in South London to extend our unbeaten start to the season. But the following game, first game of the Champions League group stage here, by Leverkusen. Moussa Diaby, our big signing in the summer. Obviously, I left him out of the squad for this game here against his former team against Leverkusen. Taking him on, I feel as though with the group we've got here, we should be targeting getting through as group winners, I would say. Maybe runners up to Leverkusen, but these two teams I'd say are the strongest. But taking on Bayer for the group opener here, you always want to get off to a good start in the group opener. I actually have quite a poor record, to be fair, in Champions League and Europa League group openers. I don't really know why. So when I fell behind early, I wasn't too surprised. Jonathan David, a Canadian, gave Leverkusen a lead, but thankfully right from kick-off we're back on level terms. Bruno Guimaraes with the equaliser, and just like against Palace, I thought we could turn this game on its head, and we would. I subbed Alexander Isak off late on in the game in South London. We'd start this one and bag a goal here at St James's as we completed a turnaround, just like we did to Roy Hodgson's side. So from a goal down, leading by a goal, this time before the end of the first half. 1 goal up, and in the second half here I managed to turn it on late on. Anthony Gordon gets our 3rd goal. It would wrap it up here. I'd say I was going to be a little bit cheeky and dribble the ball in myself after I was putting Rossi on the floor, but I saw Nathan Ake coming back, so I thought I'd better just poke it in real quick there with the former Toffee. That makes it 3-1, and then with 6 minutes to go here, a chance to make it 4-1 and get a big win on match day 1, and we'd take it as well. Spoilers, Miggy Almiron gets in behind the back line, goes through, and then step overs around the covering defender, and the coolest of finishes. There's something about cool finishes like that I just absolutely love. I can't really describe it, I really can't, but there's just something about just slotting it home, do you know what I mean? Just stroking it, just guiding it nicely into the bottom corner. There's something about that. I don't know what it is, man. I really don't know what it is, but I really love those sort of goals where it just sort of, it's a pea roller. Do you know what I mean? It just trickles in to the bottom corner. It's so cool. It just looks so nice. And Almiron wraps the game up later on. So 4-1, and we win the group opener very comfortably there against Bayer Leverkusen. I often say as well, like when you are taking on the strongest team in a European group as well, no matter what, make sure you don't lose. But if you can win by a couple of goals, that can be crucial, because in the Champions League group stage, it goes head to head before goal difference. So yeah, the head-to-head record can be crucial. Say you both win 1 each, it will then come down to who's had the better record in those 2 games. So say we beat Leverkusen there 4-1 in that game there, but say at the Bayer Arena, for example, we lost 1-0. If we finish level on points, we would still top Leverkusen on the head-to-head record, even though we both won one each and lost one each, because our win was better than theirs. So yeah, having a big win against one of the other stronger teams in the group is always really, really crucial, I find. Anyway, following game, returning back to matters in the Premier League, so we've changed Christensen's position now from right back to left back. Like I said, this guy's very, very versatile, and after we brought in Jed Spence on deadline day, I do see Christensen now getting more game time at left back. I like Matt Targett, don't get me wrong, as a backup for Kieran Tierney. Obviously spent quite a lot of time playing left back for us, starting left back for us last season when Kieran Tierney went down for 2 or 3 months. But Christensen, I think, is a step up on Matt Targett right now in terms of the ability he's got, but also he's very versatile. You know, he's 6'2", so he's tall. He can play centre half, can play right back, and he has a 4-star weak foot as well. That's why I think he'll fit in quite well at left back as well. So yeah, Christensen changed now to left back, and that's definitely where I see him getting most of the game time this season since coming in from Leeds. Following game, on the back of the 3-0 win against Wolves, where Alexander Isak next a hat-trick here, going for the golden boot after last year failing to win it and finishing in, was it 3rd or 2nd last year? Didn't win it regardless. Taking on Rotherham here away at the New York Stadium against the Millers. Carabao Cup, so obviously I feel on the backup side, wasn't really bothered what happened at all, but after I took the lead through Callum Wilson, goodness gracious, Anthony Gordon there. You know those games where you're not really that bothered. You know, I talk about this a lot, but like I don't tend to sim really any games at all. You know, I might sim the occasional one here and there at the end of the season if there's literally nothing to play for, but I'll play these ones here, but I'm still not too fussed about it. I always find these are the games where you can try different things. Do you know what I mean? You can try different lineups. We had a fully rotated side. You can try different lineups, try different tactics, try different play styles, and try different kind of build-ups as well. You know, maybe if you're a counter-attacking style of player like I am, you can try and be more possession heavy. Maybe if you don't use skill moves very often, but you want to give them a go, you can try and flip that right stick as much as you want. Anthony Gordon there, that was just ridiculous. I don't know what I was doing, but in the end, it turned out to be one of the coolest assists I've had in FIFA 23. That was like Mario Balotelli's goal for the Turkish club he was playing for a couple of years ago. Do you remember that? If you've not seen that goal, by the way, I'm going to say this right now, right? Now, I have been watching football since I was 6 years old. I'm 30, all right? I'm old. I've had over 2 decades worth of watching football, right? I have seen a lot of goals, and, you know, I often get asked, what's your favourite goal? What's the best goal you've ever seen, etc., etc., etc. It's hard to just pin one, really, because, I mean, there's just so many iconic goals that I've seen, and, you know, so many different type of goals, you know, be it skillful goals, or long-range pile drivers, or acrobatic efforts, or whatever. I'm going to be honest here, that Balotelli goal is one of the best goals I think I've ever seen when it comes down to pure skill and technique alone. If you've not seen it, I'll leave a link to it in the description as we beat Burnley here away by 3-0 to Turf Moor. If you've not seen it, I'll leave a link to it in the description. It's so hard for me to answer that question. Whenever someone asks me that question, what's the best goal you've ever seen? What's your favourite goal? It's hard to answer that question, but that goal right there is without a shadow of a doubt one of the best goals in terms of pure technique and flair I've ever seen. It really was ridiculous. Again, I'll leave it in the description. Balotelli did like 5 step-overs in a row, took it round the defender who was jockeying, and then rebonded the ball into the bottom corner. Sounds good. It's even better when you watch it. I'll leave a link to the description down below. It's extraordinary. I'm sure many of you have seen it. If you haven't, definitely check it out. When you talk about flair and humiliating your opponent, that is definitely up there. Talk about favourite goals, talk about favourite stadiums as well. Following game, taking on Shakhtar Donetsk away in Ukraine. I often get asked this question as well. Doxy Boy, what's your favourite stadium? You know, what's the best stadium you've ever visited? It's sad to know this stadium is kind of heavily damaged and has been for several years now due to the war in Ukraine and also the war in Donbass as well. But as we went away to Donetsk to take on Shakhtar, we beat them by 1-0. Shakhtar don't actually play at this stadium anymore, unfortunately, due to the conflict in Ukraine. But this is my favourite stadium in FIFA. For those that ask me this question, the Donbass Arena, it's been my favourite stadium ever since it was introduced into FIFA. And when I used to play Ultimate Team, it would always be my home stadium. it's a glorious, glorious stadium. So I get asked that question a lot as well. What's the best stadium you've ever visited? You know, what's your favourite stadium? My favourite stadium in FIFA, the Donbass Arena. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful stadium, and it's such a shame that, again, due to the conflict in Ukraine and in the Donbass region as well, before Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in 2022. It's a fabulous stadium. It's such a shame it's been heavily damaged by shelling, because it is a glorious looking stadium, honestly. And in FIFA, EA have done a great job of getting it into the game and making it look realistic as well. The interior is really, really nice, and there are certain stadiums that are that size or with those sort of dimensions that sometimes can feel a little bit less atmospheric, because oftentimes they have like a running track around them. This stadium does a great job of keeping the stadium looking very, very, again, atmospheric. The stands very close to the pitch, really important, I feel, and it's a beautiful stadium. It really, really is, and no doubt about it. It's a stadium that I hope one day gets repaired after the damage that it's taken due to the conflict in Ukraine. Again, this predates Russia's invasion back in 2022, but it's a beautiful, beautiful stadium, and definitely my favourite in FIFA 23. For those that do ask me my favourite stadium, you know, it's hard to say. Like, it's hard to say what my favourite stadium actually is, as we beat the Saints there by 2-1. I'm not too sure. I'd have to really think about that, you know. I mean, I've visited so many iconic ones, you know, especially in England, of course, as well. But, you know, I also have to say, I was very lucky enough to take a trip to Argentina earlier this year, and I got to visit La Bombonera, Boca Juniors Stadium. I watched a game in the stadium. The atmosphere pre-game was phenomenal. Nothing like I'd ever seen before. What a beautiful, beautiful, iconic ground that is. It's called the Chocolate Box due to its D shape. Very unique. And I'm a sucker for unique stadiums and unique architecture. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. For those that are curious, I did go to the outside of River Plate Stadium, but I didn't actually go in and take a look at the interior. That is one of the regrets I have from my brief time spent in Argentina earlier this year. Even so, for the final game of this episode, champions Chelsea away at the Bridge in West London. A chance to make a statement of intent here. Chelsea not off to an amazing start this season, but of course they are the Premier League holders, taking them on away in West London, looking for a big win and a big statement after we also beat them in the Community Shield as well. I've laid down the gauntlet to start the season off and said I want to be Premier League champions come the end of the season with this Newcastle team. You couldn't have asked for a better start. 35 minutes in, I was tearing the Blues open. We were leading by 3-0 in West London, absolutely dominating. And 74 minutes in, oh yeah, 3-0 up, and Alexander Isak scores a contender for goal of the season. Yet we've seen two really nice goals today, and this was beautiful. So Maxime with a lovely scissor kick ball into the middle to pick out the Swede, and this finish after the chest to shield N'Golo Kante, obviously far taller than the Frenchman, used his body and his frame really well, flicks it over his head and half volleys it in past Edouard Mendy. That was sublime. 4-0 the final score, big win in West London. And our phenomenal start to the season, it continues. We've now got a 10-point gap on last year's holders. Us, Arsenal and the Red Devils all firing on all cylinders to start the season off with 7 wins in 8. Very good start, but still very close indeed. But that will end today's episode of the Newcastle United Criminal Guys. So big fan of you, enjoyed it. If you had, then please drop a like. Most of you all have a fantastic day. Don't forget to check out that Balotelli goal in the description down below. And I'll see you for the next episode of the Newcastle United Career Mode very soon.